You know, far too many people gets it wrong, man. They get it wrong. They just don't understand. All right, welcome back, folks. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. You know, I've been seeing a whole lot of YouTube videos on this right here, the razor blade trick. See a lot of videos on YouTube about this, and very few of them talk about scraping the razor blade over a piece of metal. I've got a little vise right here. I don't think you can see it. A little metal vise right here I use for making nuts and saddles and stuff, just to hold the product in there, you know, while I file on it or stand on it or whatever. But talking about these little razor blades, man, most of the channels on YouTube that I see, they tell you, you know, take a razor blade, put tape on the ends of it. See, I got tape on both ends of that one. Sometimes you only have to tape up one end, depending, like if you're scraping binding, around binding. Usually you only have to tape up, you know, one side and leave one side exposed, whatever you'll be scraping on the binding. In this case, like if you're scraping a crack, you want to take both ends of it up and leave the center part exposed, right where you're going to be scraping that crack at. But the trick that a lot of channels don't seem to mention, they forget or don't know, is to jerk that blade over a piece of metal. You know, put the blade up against a piece of metal, apply a good bit of pressure, and pull it down over the side of that. And what that does is create a burr. Now be careful and don't cut yourself doing that. When you turn it, you know, a little bit sideways and you scrape the edge over the end of a piece of metal, it creates a burr on the edge. It bends that edge a tiny bit. You still got your sharpness, it's just not in the center now, it's off to one side, okay? Then you take that, and you can feel that with your thumb. Feel both sides with your thumb. You can tell which side the burr is on. The side the burr's on is the side you want to scrape into the cut, or the crack, or the binding, or whatever you're working on. By creating that, bending that edge around and making that burr, when you cut, you know, across the crack, when you're leveling the crack or the binding or whatever, turn the blade a little bit, you know, sideways. Don't scrape straight down with the crack. Turn the blade a little bit sideways as you're scraping that crack. Like best way I can explain that is like a snow plow. You know how snow plows are turned a little bit so they'll show the snow off to one side. It helps them cut into the snow, and the force forward, you know, forces the snow to slide down the blade and off to one side. Same thing exactly applies here. Only we're shoving sawdust and glue or whatever, you know, you've used to build the crack up with, or the finish even. But by creating that burr on the side like that and turning the blade a little bit sideways, and then that kind of allows the blade not to jump but to slice through the whatever material, if it's finish or if it's glue or glue boost or CA glue or whatever you're cutting through. It allows that blade to kind of slice through it. It's kind of, you know, if you got the edge bent sideways like that off to the side, and you're turning the blade a little bit sideways to the whatever you're working on, it's just exactly like a snow plow, man. It glides through there. It lets the blade allow it to slice through instead of just, you know, rake off the top of it. I see a lot of channels, man, doing this, and very few, like I say, very few of them ever mention dragging that thing across the edge of a piece of metal. Now you can't, I've tried taking a screwdriver and jerking it across that. You could probably do that, but you need a good heavy piece of metal that will not move when you do this. Screwdriver's a little bit light and you're going to move with it as you do it. Like I say, I've tried it and it works, but you can't get a very good edge on there doing it that way. Like this vise that I have clamped here on the bench is solid, and it's not going to move any at all. So I can take a razor blade, a brand new one, you know, just turn it sideways. Let's say, This is the vise over there. The idea is not to scrape the blade straight down into the metal, but to turn it sideways like that. Scrape it very hard. One time usually is all you need to do it. Press on it really hard. Jerk it across. And you got your burr. Jerk it off. And you got your burr on the, not on the metal, but on the blade. And that makes all the difference in the world, man, in cutting, slicing. It'll cause us to slice through. I'm going to put a couple videos of my older videos up here showing you and explaining, you know, exactly how to do it. I've got more than one video, I think, where I told you in detail how to do it, if you want to look those up. But I'll splice in a couple here of me scraping cracks or seam separations or whatever it was, and explain a little bit more about, you know, how you turn it sideways to get that cut through effect. It makes all the difference in the world, man. It makes your surface area smoother. Like I say, you're not dragging across the top and jumping up and down and making unlevel. You know, turn it sideways, put the burr on it, turn it sideways, pull it gently over the crack. Don't apply much of pressure. Put tape on both ends or on one end, depending on what you're working on. And turn it sideways, pull it down over where you're working on, and it will slice through that. I'm telling you, man, you'll thank me. You will thank me. You will thank me if you ever have to do this and you do it this way. Taking a razor blade here again, and I put 3M Scotch tape on. Well, first, I drug this razor blade over a piece of steel, and that creates a burr on the end of the very edge of the blade. Then I wrapped Scotch tape, one layer of it around each side, leaving the center exposed, and that center is what I want to scrape this crack. See what I mean? One side of this crack, this side of the crack is higher than this side. Okay, so all I'm doing now, you saw me put super glue into the crack, and the only thing I'm doing now is just leveling both sides of the crack out until it's smooth like this one. I don't know if you can see that one in the camera or not, but you got to be awful careful about doing this, because if you cut down into the finish, you know, if you burn through that finish and hit the bare wood, you're going to remove the red paint. And then, you know, you pretty much got to strip the entire top of the guitar and redo the whole thing then to make it look right. Right now, I'm going to have to get a new razor blade here. And another key to this, doing this, if you ever do it, it's like working. I see so many people using a hand plane or a finger plane and using it wrong. And this applies the same thing. Instead of scraping straight up with the crack, to get a good clean cut, you want to put your razor blade down here and turn it just a little bit, either that way or this way. See what I mean? If I scrape straight up the crack, it's not going to cut as well as it will as if I turn the blade, you know, sideways like so. You get a much cleaner and better looking result by turning that blade sideways like this. And the results have always been more than pleasing in, you know, every case that I've used it in. I've always been happy with it. Check that out. And you take a cloth that doesn't have any of that on it and go over the entire thing. Of course, we'll buff the entire thing out, the whole guitar, and polish it whenever we're finished. But right now I'm just showing you. Like I said before, you always want to angle your razor blade, pull it across a piece of metal, put a burr on the edge, and then scrape with that burr facing the way you're scraping. And don't scrape straight up the crack. Turn that razor blade a little bit. That allows that blade to slice, that burr to slice right through the finish or the wood or whatever you're working on. You get a much cleaner cut.
Alright, I got 3 sandpapers out here. I'm going to start with the 1500 grit. I'm just going to lightly use the end of that, flat end of that eraser. Work in circular motions. And need a soft, kind of a soft brush. Here's a makeup brush, I think. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that pretty good there now. I would recommend, I'm not doing it right now, but I do. I just didn't have any ready. So much other crap going on. But I would recommend if you do this, use 3M sandpaper and let it soak in water overnight before you tackle this job. Let it set overnight and put 1 drop, you know, just a little cup of water will do it. Put in 1 drop of dishwashing soap. Like I say, I didn't do that this time. I usually do. We're sanding dry here right now. And I get down to almost where I want and switch to that I'm going to switch right now, I think. And switch to the 2000 grit here now. It'll be even better than that. At least we hope. We certainly hope, don't we? Small circular motions does the trick. $2,000 grit. Now we'll go over it with the polish after this. I swear, man, you could use that stuff for buffing compound. You could get by with it. Now when you go over it with your a little light with the lighter sandpaper, you may want to go out a little bit bigger each time to blend that in with the. I hope you can see it. Yeah, you can see it good on the camera. Go out, you know, a little bit bigger, and if I was going up to 2500, I'd go a little bit bigger than that to blend it in with the outer work. Make it look as nice as it can look. This stuff is amazing. I'm telling you, it is amazing. Now this time, I'll use a different rag to wipe it up. This rag's not so much polluted with miracle salve. Yes, sir. And this crack will never be a problem again. Never again. It won't let any elements in. It's glued. It wasn't through the wood, by the way. I mentioned that before, I think. But some did get in before we did this, and it's permanent. You're never going to come out. Now when I am finished with this guitar and I buff it by hand, that will look way better than it does now, but it really looks good right now. Get the light to glare on it, I can see it better.
Don't say anything about putting a burr on it. I see a lot of channels, they don't put no burr on it, they use a tape and they scrape in both directions. You know? You get a lot better result if you put a burr on it and scrape in one direction. Like I say, you take your thumb and feel both sides of the blade. You can tell which side the burr's on. That's the direction you want to scrape, on the side where the burr is. Turn it sideways. Scrape in the side, on the side the burr is, and you'll be a whole lot happier camper, I guarantee you. So I hope that helps. Thank you guys for watching. More tips to come. I got to get this guitar ready. Guy won this, Peter. I don't know if I can tell him your whole name, so I won't do it. His name's Peter. He won this guitar in the contest. I will start setting it up. I'll get videos of that. I've just been behind on everything, man. Everything. Y'all patrons know why. Cheers. Thanks for watching. See you soon.